Hi, I'm Brenda and you're listening to the Little Kingdom Warriors podcast, where we help our kids discover God through play. Are you overwhelmed by the weight of your never-ending list of things to do, but desperately want to invest in your kids' faith life? Are you tired of the same old colouring sheets and seemingly lifeless Bible stories that you're even struggling to sound enthusiastic about? Well, I'm here to help. I'm a lover of all things creative, an ex-primary school teacher turned stay-at-home mum and follower of Jesus. Let's walk this path together and transform our kids' lives with new and exciting ways to explore the Bible and help them become God's little kingdom warriors. We might not have it all together, but with God, and maybe a strong coffee or two, we've got this. Hello and welcome to Little Kingdom Warriors. I'm your host, Brenda. Today we are going to be looking into episode 2 of my mini-series, Putting the Christ Back in Christmas. Last week we looked into making Christmas count in the busy holiday season when you feel like you have no time at all. And today we are going to be looking into 4 easy craft ideas to connect your child with God this Christmas with minimal prep. Most of us around Christmas time are all incredibly busy. We are travelling, we've got heaps of events going on leading up to Christmas time, we've got presents to buy, people to visit, and it's easy to let this season slip by, and after the dust has settled, we realise in the busyness of it all, we haven't really connected with the real message of Christmas. Let's change that this year. Today we are going to find 4 easy craft ideas that you can do at home that require minimal prep. My first idea, and this is one that we're going to be doing with our family, is to start a Jesse tree tradition. I had never actually heard about the Jesse tree until recently, but I came across it when I was trying to find some meaningful activities that threaded their way through December and kept their focus on what actually happens on Christmas and the birth of Jesus. To give you a little idea of what the Jesse tree is, it helps us to remember the plans and promises of God to his people. Woven through scripture are these great stories of memorable men and women and events that show the hand of God leading up to the birth of Jesus and the redemption and the hope that his birth provides for mankind. I think that it's just such a beautiful way to help your children connect with the amazing story of Jesus' birth in a greater depth. The first Jesse trees were large carvings, tapestries, or stained glass windows in churches to help people who couldn't read or write learn the story of creation leading up to the birth of Jesus. Each day through Advent, or sometimes just on the 4 Sundays of Advent, a special decoration or ornament that tells a story from the Bible was hung on a Jesse tree. It's called a Jesse tree, originating from the verse in Isaiah 11:1, and I'm going to read a fairly lengthy passage, but just stick with me for a moment. A shoot will come up from the stump of Jesse, from his roots a branch will bear fruit. The Spirit of the Lord will rest on him, the Spirit of wisdom and of understanding, the Spirit of counsel and of power, the Spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord, and he will delight in the fear of the Lord. He will not judge what he sees with his eyes, or decide by what he hears with his ears, but with righteousness he will judge the needy. With justice he will give decisions for the poor of the earth. He will strike the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips he will slay the wicked. Righteousness will be his belt, and faithfulness the sash around his waist. So the whole idea of the Jesse tree originates from this one verse, that Jesus, the Son of God, will be born from the line of Jesse. It's easy to find some ideas of scriptures and simple drawings to go with these. You just need to search for Jesse tree ornaments. We are going to be using cartoon drawings that I have done for each day leading up to Christmas with a short corresponding verse. So what it's going to look like is I have traced around a circular bowl, or I just used a tin lid, but you could just find something relatively small that you can hang on a tree, and you draw a small symbol of the verse linked to the Jesse tree verses. So my plan is to be reading the story, and then I will get my kids to colour them in, and we will hang them up on either our Christmas tree or a separate little tree. So I'm going to have the verse on the back and on the front the symbol or a small picture relating to that verse to help us remind us of the events and the prophecy that Jesus was going to be coming to rescue mankind. If the kids do a really nice job of colouring in, maybe we will be laminating them and hole punching them and then stringing them up on the tree, or we could just print them off the following year and redo it every single year. I've also seen some lovely ones that are made of fabric or acrylic felt, which look beautiful, but that's probably something that older kids, maybe 10 and 11, would be able to do with some assistance from mum or dad or someone else crafty. And if you have a look on Etsy, there were quite a lot of these that were already made up if you're short on time and you just wanted to do the verse or the Bible story with your kids. But if you're the crafty sort, you could actually assemble these yourself, I think, relatively easily. So my hope is that next Christmas I will actually have these up for you. I was hoping to have printable downloads for you, and I've been writing a devotional to go along with it. But my aim is next Christmas, because we are just running out of time to get this organised for this Christmas. My second idea is to make your own Christmas nativity scene. This is something that I really enjoyed doing with Lily last year. You can use figurines you already have if you don't want to be going to the shop, or you can paint your own. We used these peg dolls that I got from Spotlight. They're pretty cheap. You can also find them in places like the Reject Shop. But I would suggest, if you've painted them, that you seal them with a spray gloss paint sealer, and don't make the mistake I did where you let your kids play with them and realise the paint's not actually sealed and it's making paint go everywhere, so it doesn't smudge after. You can add in animals. We just added in plastic toy animals. If you wanted, you could also create a stable. So we used paddle pop sticks to make a stable, but you could also use some old cereal boxes and cut them up and paint them and put them together to make a little stable. I found some cute ideas that you can use if you don't have time to go and purchase wooden peg dolls from Spotlight. A lovely idea I came across, and this might be handy if you've got a lot of relatives coming to stay and they're using your toilet. You can use those empty toilet rolls and paint them and add little goggly eyes and paint them with some poster paints, or decorate them with fabric or coloured paper. It's really versatile. There's so many different things you can do with it. And I'll link the place where I found that in the podcast description show notes. You could also be reading the story of Jesus' birth while you're doing all this, or listening to a lovely audio book that I found by Gigi Kids. It's called Mary's Big News, and the audiobook's actually free if you sign up to their email list. Just a small plug. I think it would be great for little kids. The other thing you could do if you're struggling to do a big activity all in one go is to unwrap specific characters from the nativity scene and read scriptures about them as the days progress through December, and add them into the nativity scene. So you're leading up to Christmas Day when baby Jesus is unwrapped. It's a nice way to build anticipation for his arrival, as well as break it up if you've got some kids that don't have long attention spans. If you have more time and you're the crafty sort, you could always make a diorama with a hanging star over the stable coming from the roof, and angels suspended from the top with all the characters around baby Jesus. So lots of different things you can do, but I really think that taking the time to make your own Christmas nativity scene is a great way to engage your kids in the real message of Christmas. My next idea, and this is a really short one, but something that I think is worth mentioning, is to use some role play. So you could use paddle pop sticks, and you can draw the figurines of the nativity story on cardboard and stick them onto paddle pop sticks, and that makes for a really lovely, easy retell of the story of Christmas. You could make one a day if you're short on time, and then on Christmas Day you could read the entire story using all the different paddle pop stick characters that you've made throughout December. My last idea is to create some story stones of the nativity scene. This is a lovely idea that you can reuse over and over again, so you can make it this Christmas season and then get it out next Christmas time, and it's a nice little keepsake. So in case you haven't heard of it before, story stones are used as story prompts, and you can use them for retail. And your kids can create nativity story stones to help them remember the story of the very first Christmas. So to actually create this, you can either go on a walk to find stones, or you can easily pick up a bottle of stones from Bunnings, or I've also found them at Kmart. I would suggest finding a lighter coloured stone so that the pictures show up on the stones themselves. If you're wanting to reuse them, I would use something like a marker pen and then acrylic paint, and then sealing them so that they last a long time. Again, this is something that might work a bit better for slightly older kids, unless you want to maybe draw the outlines for younger kids and then let them paint them in yourself, but just try to let that beautiful perfectionist image go of what it should look like on Pinterest, and just accept that it's going to look a little bit messy if the kids do it themselves. I found a lovely blog post on steps on how to do the story stones, so I will link that in the show notes. That's about it from me for this week. Let's just quickly recap the ideas that I gave you today, the 4 easy craft ideas to connect your child with God this Christmas. The first easy craft idea I mentioned was to start a Jessie tree tradition. So remember that this can be as easy as or as hard as you want to make it. You can do it every day in December, or you can do them all at once if you feel like it. My second idea that I gave you was to make your own Christmas nativity scene, and this can be as easy or as tricky as you want. You can break it up into small chunks over December, or do the whole thing all at once. My third craft idea was that you could use role play paddle pop sticks. And the last idea I had was to use some story stones to tell the nativity story. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you join us next week for the final episode in our mini-series. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye. Hey friends, if this podcast encouraged you or made an impact on you in some way, I would be so grateful if you could take a minute to leave a review to help other people find my show. Don't forget to click subscribe so you are the first to know when a new episode airs. Hop on over and join my free Little Kingdom Warriors Facebook community, which I will link for you in the show notes. Thanks so much for listening, and God bless. I'll see you next time.